So no particular order here. I'm just going in my screen. I have Garland Shirley in my top corner. So Coach Shirley, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself.
I had a feeling I'd be first. I don't know how, but my name is Garland Shirley. I'm the head softball coach at Clarke University. We are located in Dubuque, Iowa, right on the border of Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. I've been coaching softball for about 22 years, 3 years at Clarke University, spent some time at a junior college before that, and then another NAIA program before that. Did the high school softball thing, travel ball, so I've been around a lot of different places. So right now we're just kind of in the off season, letting our girls take a mental break from school. They're kind of trying to recover, and, we've had a lot of isolations and, quarantines and all that kind of thing. So we're just kind of letting our girls take a little bit of a mental break. So nice to see you guys.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Monica Harrison, you're up next.
Hello, everyone. I am Monica Harrison, head softball coach at Carnegie Mellon University, Division III school in the UAA conference, and we are based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. New program to Division III. We started about 3 seasons ago. This will be our 3rd season. And recently, since this summer, I've been given the NCAA Athletics Diversity and Inclusion Designee position at Carnegie Mellon. So really launching into some great DEI strategic work at the university, and trying to continue to move the needle in this issue and providing access and equality and equity to Carnegie Mellon, which is a predominantly white institution. So happy to be on this call and engage with you all.
Thank you very much. Noala, you're next.
How you doing? My name is Nala James. I'm the head softball coach over at New York University in New York City. We started the program. We're going into our 7th season. I've also coached at Division II Pace University and a year at Division III Lehman College as well. Just like Monica, I'm in the UAA conference. I'm also, we have a lot of groups at NYU on diversity and inclusion, and we are also trying to do the same at a predominantly white institution about equity and equality. And I'm honored and humbled. I'm humbled and honored to be here talking to you right now.
Thank you very much. And something you might see in the chat as we start conversation is that acronym PWI. That does stand for predominantly white institution. So if you see some of that and you're thinking, what is that? What am I missing? I had to look that up once, so I'm just going to share that knowledge. So there you go. Let's see. Monique White, you're next.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having us and for having this call. My name is Monique White. I'm the assistant softball coach at Georgetown University. Been coaching for about 11 years. I coached at high school, Division II, Division I. I played at junior college, Division I. Interesting tidbit about my playing career is in my 4 years, I had 5 head coaches. So it's really important to me to make sure that not only in our team and our university and our department, that we're creating a community where every person feels valued, heard, respected, and in the softball community as a whole.
Thank you very much. Tori Tyson.
Hey everyone, I am Tori Tyson. I have been just about everywhere. I played at University of Nebraska. I've coached at Cal State Fullerton, University of Maryland, and Bethune-Cookman. I am currently the head coach at Howard University in Washington, D.C. I'm sure you're getting probably a little sick and tired of seeing me, but I feel like I've really been trying to just be a voice of reason and be an open ear, and just been really trying to aim to change people's hearts just in the state of everything that's been going on in the world in regards to race, and just kind of trying to be, to connect the dots for a lot of people. So I hope I can help someone tonight.
Thank you very much. Coach Eric Oakley.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be part of this panel. My name is Eric Oakley. I'm the head softball coach at Kent State University. I've been coaching various levels for about 28 years now. And I just think the pattern that I've seen in the last even just 10 years is with the more money that comes into our sport, I think we're starting to become too much of a country club sport. I think we're alienating a lot of communities. And I look forward to an opportunity to talk to the people on in this chat about that, and also, examine the things that I may or may not be doing. If I can say just a quick thing, this past week we saw skateboarding and breakdancing go into the Olympics instead of softball. And as funny as that seems, it's actually sad, because I think we're losing access to the communities, and those are sports that are easily accessible to inner city and rural communities. So I think that as a sport, we have a lot to examine, and I look forward to doing that tonight.
Great point, Eric. Thank you. Next up, we have Brooke Reed.
Hi, everyone. Brooke Reed. I am the Director of Ops at Texas Tech. I have been there this is my 7th season. Previously, I was coaching at Mississippi Valley State, and I am applauding every coach on here because I realized that coaching wasn't for me, which caused me to transition into ops. So that's how I ended up there. I'm basically just hoping that I can be, representation for a younger generation of girls coming up behind us that don't have, my age range, like don't have a lot of representation, seeing softball players of color on a national level, just in general. So I'm hoping that I can learn from panelists that are here, and also help anyone else that has any questions and help grow the game.
Thank you very much. Let's see, Tyra Perry.
Hello, everyone. Can y'all hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah. Good. I'm Tyra Perry. I'm the head softball coach at the University of Illinois. I was actually Brooke's coach a few years ago at Birmingham Southern College, where I started. And then also she transferred, and I took the job at Western, so I had the opportunity to coach her there as well, Western Kentucky. And then went on to Ball State, and then now Illinois. I am so excited about what the NFCA is doing in regards to diversity and inclusion. I can't say enough about just the active role and the active position that the NFCA has taken for all of us. And I think it's just commendable what you guys are doing. I'm also part of the Big Ten initiative, the Anti-Hate, Anti-Racism Coalition. I believe we're working on maybe changing the name a little bit to like the equality something, but I actually kind of like the name, especially the coalition part. So I hope we don't lose that. But I think our conference has done a great job of bringing people together as well. And that's how I see this. This is an opportunity for people from all places, from all backgrounds, to join together and realize that we have so much in common, and it's not just softball. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And Amber Barker.
Hi, everyone. Amber Barker, head softball coach at Texas Women's University. Super excited to be on this panel and have this conversation. It's an important conversation. Been in softball for a while, about 13 years coaching, but the last 8 as a head coach. And this past summer really hit me as I coached a mostly white team, and just seeing their disconnect at times with the social justice issues going on. So it forced us to have some very important conversations, uncomfortable conversations for both me and them. And I'm looking forward to the work that we're continuing to do in FCA as well, and being on a panel with this incredible group. So I'm excited to move the needle forward.
Thank you very much. Well, we're going to start with some current initiatives. So it can be a program that you are working for or with. It can be, an institution that you are helping. It can be, someone in your community. But what is one of the best things that you have been a part of, seen, or helped put together in moving the needle, so to speak, and really bringing some awareness to some of the racial issues that have brought to light even more so nationally than ever before for a lot of student athletes. So again, no particular order. Let's see, Monique, let's start with you.
Okay, one thing that, has been meaningful for us is, our team is mostly white too, and allowing teams that have more diversity to come talk to our players about their experiences. We had, I can share it in the chat, but we have BSAC, so our Black Student Athlete Coalition, they came out with a video called I Can't Breathe, where they literally just shared their experiences being student athletes at Georgetown, which is a PWI. And something like that was a shock for a lot of coaches, and just things that people just assume oh, I didn't realize people didn't love their experience as much as, the other person, and to just understand that experiences are different. So, we've had, our BSAC meet with our team, and we've learned to integrate with other teams that may be more diverse until we are able to have our own team that is more diverse. But that's something that I think has been really impactful. So I'll be happy to put that in the chat.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that would be great. Coach Shirley, how about you?
I'm actually working on quite a few things. At Clarke University, I also serve as our staff representative for our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. But one of the things that I'm working on there right now, I'd say is probably the most important for me is, so in Iowa, just seeing Black coaches is an anomaly. When I started coaching high school softball back in 2008, I became the first African-American head softball coach in an entire state, not in a city or in a county or a region, but in an entire state. And, that hasn't changed. When I left coaching high school, there still are no other Black high school softball coaches out of, I think, 390 some schools in our district, in our area. So I have two African-American daughters, grew up playing the game. They were kind of by themselves, peerless on the field a lot. So I started working with the Iowa High School Athletic Association here, trying to develop a series of clinics that are geared towards communities of color to, create opportunities for those young ladies to get out and learn about the game of softball, be taught by people that have been around for a long time, provide access to equipment and things like that. So that's something that I'm working on in this area. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. How about you, Eric?
I feel like this is a good moment to say, that the initiatives that we've put in place haven't really come to fruition yet. I've tried myself to understand, Monique, I think, said something about it, that there are two different worlds. And I think that the realization of that has been the biggest thing for me as a coach, talking to several of my former athletes and their experience and what it was to be a Black athlete at Kent, and how it doesn't compare to what it was to be a white athlete at Kent. So we're working on, bringing alumni in to talk about their experiences. There have, been bigger initiatives through the Kent community and through the MAC, but the priority right now for our team is to make sure we have an understanding of not everybody's experience is the same, and that there are two different worlds right now, and that's what is trying to be reconciled.
Thank you very much. Noala.
There we go.
We got you.
We have a couple of different initiatives going on. A couple years back, we started working with inner city high schools, doing little mini clinics for them. I had them come out to some practices, and we just talked to them about, the different experiences that some of our players had, and how they can also have that experience, and how they can play collegiate softball. They can get an education at a great school such as NYU. At NYU, we're working on some affordability initiatives as well, because, we made it known that some of the reasons why we don't have as much diversity as we potentially could have is because of the cost of attendance and the affordability of the universities. And, you know, so because everyone comes from different school districts and everything else, and the way they evaluate transcripts and things of that nature, as far as we concern, it's one of the reasons why the numbers are where they are at the university. So we're working on that as well. So I'm excited to see where that's headed. We've had quite a few conversations about it within the last couple of weeks, and it's something that we're really going to hit hard throughout even the holidays, especially as the admissions process goes on for us. So I'm excited what the numbers could potentially look like in the future at the university. So those are some of the things that we're working on.
Well, thank you very much. And we have a large panel, so this is not a purposeful skip. This is the halfway point. So what we're going to do is we're going to put you all in breakout rooms. There are 9 breakout rooms, and you each should have a leader in your breakout room. If you do not, for some reason, because I have messed them up and you're missing a panelist, no big deal. Just somebody take some notes, right? And the first question is, what question should we ask? First one, how can we be better allies? Or I guess I misread that. How can we be better allies? There we go. So let's go ahead and start with, let's see, let's go Monica. Why don't you take that one first?
Of course, it'd be the question that I get fired up about. I think allyship is a noun and a verb. It is something that you have to actively engage in every day. If you are not from a marginalized community, allyship sometimes means you got to give up your seat at the table so that others can have a voice at the table. I think with diversity, equity, and inclusion, a lot of people think about like the diversity thing, and diversity is about who's in the room, right? The numbers. Equity is about their access to the room, and inclusion is about everything, right? How they get to the room, how they're interacting in the room, what is the makeup of the room, who's getting things done, how are people interacting. And if you lean in on inclusion, you're going to move the needle in diversity and equity, because you can't do inclusion without diversity and equity. So if you're an ally, you've got to keep asking yourself, how am I creating cultures of inclusive excellence? How am I making sure that everybody that's in the room is being engaged? They have the opportunity to, they feel open, they feel like they have a sense of belonging. In my room, I talk to the folks about every kid that goes to college all have the same goals. It doesn't matter your background. They all want a positive, affirming experience in college. Where you will actually start to see the divergence in paths is the ability to get there is highly dependent on the university being able to wrap resources around people getting there, because folks from marginalized communities are going to have more roadblocks on that path to a positive, affirming experience than non-marginalized students. And same thing for student athletes. So if you know that, then we definitely have to then figure out, okay, as an ally, how am I raising these people up? How am I empowering them? How am I giving them opportunities that they would automatically have roadblocks to? And how am I making sure that they know that they can come to me judgment-free at all times to say, like, 1, to vent if something happened, 2, to be a sounding board, and 3, stop being a mouthpiece for somebody. Let them tell their own story. Let them narrate what they want and what they need and how they should be reacting. You can give them advice, but then let them go and do it on their own. Because if you start to be a mouthpiece and you start to take credit for their ideas and their work, and that's not allyship.
I'm sorry for whoever I pick randomly to follow that. I just want to apologize in advance. I love that you hit your passion question from the beginning, and I hope we get more of those. That was fantastic. Brooke Reed, you're up.
I'm not sure there's much else to say after that was kind of like next question. But yeah, everything that Monica just said, and then I would just like to add on is just not having performative allyship, not just doing things on social media or for appearances, but actually doing the work when you're at home by yourself. If that means reading a book, that means watching a documentary, talking to other people, talking to your family, having the hard conversations. That is my definition of being an ally. Like, just, again, keyword, not being performative, just to say like, oh, I'm an ally. And I don't per se give yourself that quality if you haven't done the work.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's see, Nala, you're next.
I think the best way to be an ally, like I think they said mostly everything you could say, but definitely, I mean, for our sport, especially, some of the things that I've seen is because when I go back to my neighborhood, I don't ever see softball. I'm gonna be honest. So, and that's because no one's there teaching them those things. So for me, it's everyone here can give to a neighborhood and give a kid an opportunity, give them a chance, teach them some new skills that they don't get because we don't have the resources for those things. I know, for one, if it wasn't for sports, who knows where I would be right now. It gave me a way out. It gave me hope. It allowed me to understand that I can make it through that. I can get an education through athletics. So I think we all have a big responsibility in the sense of, you never know whose life you're going to make an impact on. And just little things such as that, a kind gesture, equipment, things of that nature. Those are the things that help no matter what. And that's something that I'm focusing on now, is helping give someone an opportunity and hope that they can do what we're doing. By looking at all of you guys doing what you're doing, that could be them one day. And yeah, that's just the biggest thing for me is, we got to understand that we can all help with resources and things of that nature. And things that we have, we can share with others.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the next question. How can we teach empathy to our athletes? Let's go Tori on this one first.
This is like I hate this one because I really struggle with people who just lack empathy. But I think that the best thing that you can do is they have to understand experiences. And again, I think that what Monica said is huge, is when it's you who's telling it and you don't have a stake in the game, or you've never really experienced firsthand, it doesn't really always trigger an emotion. So I think that it is important that it is something that they can relate to. There is something that connects all of us, something that we can all be empathetic about. It's about figuring out what that is, right? For us in this room, it's softball and the growth of softball. So the conversations that I have with teams or other athletes is specifically around something that would make them see that. And sometimes when you see it, I mentioned this in our one thing is take some of your athletes to these areas that they don't have the best of everything. I said, go play or spend a day in the life at an HBCU. Something me and Karen Weekly had talked about, she actually thought of it. Like, she wanted her girls to experience it and see it firsthand, because we're all human. We don't want to keep being talked at. Some of us need to live it. Some of us really need to see it with our own eyes to really trigger an emotion. But I think that is something that we all should be geared at. It's just being empathetic with everything, so that when something like this comes up, we're not trying to beg you to be empathetic. It's something we should be trying to work to just implement in our everyday life, which I know is something that with my athletes, just trying to get them to understand that every day there are people, right, that just have less than us, even us at an HBCU. So I think just seeing it is one thing, because I don't think that people believe it until they see it and they experience it with themselves.
Thank you very much. Eric, same question.
Well, I think we talked about this in our group a little bit. I think history, I think education is a big part of that. I think bringing in people who've had the experience that you want your athletes to understand. But I think from a predominantly white institution or a team, that accepting your privilege is a huge step. And I think before we do that, before we stop and realize that, I can tell this story or what hardship I may have had, but I've never had it related to the color of my skin. I mean, I think that's something that we have to accept first and foremost. And I don't think I don't think empathy can happen until that part happens.
Thank you very much. Tyra, same question.
I feel like, the empathy word is the word of the day, kind of in my brain. Just letting people know that we're all in this together, that this is a journey that we're all walking through together, I think is super important. I like all of the perspective answers that were kind of given before mine, just gaining that perspective of what is it like to be in that person's shoes. When they make a statement or make a move or have an action, what is that coming from? I think, in today's world, especially with social media, it's so easy to kind of judge everything at surface value. My family and I, we were just talking about, I don't know if you guys saw this, there was a young man in Texas in a high school in a football game. He, kind of jumped on the referee after he was ejected. So if you look at that, from just the article, it obviously looks terrible. It is terrible, but who knows, what that young man's background is, who taught him that behavior, why is he, reacting that way to something that maybe some of us in this room would never do. So why would we never do this? And why does this kid think, that it's okay to do? So just kind of getting back behind the scenes, peeling back the layers, and really caring about, this person's journey. Why are they this way? What makes them who they are? And if we can do that for one person and then another person, and I think things would change.
Thank you very much. Next question. Have you or how have you assessed the climate of your team? Let's start with Amber on this one.
So when everything was going on, and I say everything, we know that social injustice has been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, but it seemed to be heightened this summer. And so immediately I reached out to our athletes. I reached out to our few Black athletes to ask how they were doing. When I listened to them tell me they had not heard from their teammates, that crushed me. That broke my heart. And I immediately reached out to our team to have the conversation. And you got well, I don't know what to say and all of that. But these are your teammates. These are your sisters. So what we did was we had very strong conversations. And like I said earlier, about uncomfortable conversations where you don't get to sit and just say, I don't know what to say. We talked about education, and then we sent around a list. Now, here's some things you can read. Here are some links that you can look at on YouTube. Like, you don't get to stand and just say, I don't know what to do. So we even put them through some education this year. We had them look up civil rights leaders. We had them do the education on their own, because it's not just the work of those minorities to educate everyone. And we made it very clear that it takes all of us. And if we're going to do this together, we've got to all be a part of it. So that was the biggest thing for us. And we addressed it that way. And we continue to have conversations. We didn't let the conversation just die after June or July. And I think that's the biggest thing. It can't be a hashtag. It can't be just lip service. That conversation has to continue, much like we're doing now. That conversation has to continue, and it's ongoing. And they have to realize that, and hopefully want to.
Yes. Thank you very much. Coach Shirley.
I have to agree 100% with everything that she just said. I think conversations are really important. But I think it's also important that we start really paying attention to, not just our players, but kind of the things that's going on around them, because that'll tell us a lot about what they're going through. Pay attention to what's going on in their communities, their social media. We all know, we see what goes on their Facebook and on their Instagram and things like that. You may have a student that doesn't tell you, I'm being really impacted by some of the social injustices that are going on. But if you take a look at their social media platforms, you can see things that they're really passionate about, things that they really care about. And if you see those things, it's important for you to be able to have those conversations with people on your teams that are going to help you have, breakthroughs. in my opinion. We talked a little bit about empathy before, and how do you teach it? And the reality is you can't teach empathy. You have to be able to feel empathy. You have to be in a situation where you can truly feel what someone else has felt at some point. And so those conversations kind of open the door, but you have to pay attention to what's going on in your students' lives and to your athletes' lives. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Monique.
So one of the things, first that I did was make sure I took a minute, for myself to make sure I was okay so that I could enter into the space, just okay to have that hard conversation, because I needed a couple days. I needed a minute. Like, I wasn't in the space to be there for my players. I had to make sure I was okay first. And it was important that I had the support of, my head coach to be able to do that. And to be able to have those kind of conversations with her before we were able to have that conversation with the team. And then again, just giving them space to kind of, what are they thinking? Like, I'd never been in a situation where I've had a team that didn't have a Black student athlete. So I was like, how do we have this conversation, with a majority white team and all those things. So it was important that, I talked to other coaches and things like that. How are they handling, this topic? And then we just first gave them space to talk, and then let them know what do we want to do? What kind of team do we want to be? How do we want to, what kind of stance are we going to take? And then again, our kids are very intelligent, very passionate. So after getting to hear their perspectives, it was okay, now as coaches, how can we help them, do the things that they want to do? So, that's kind of where we started. And then allowing them, like I mentioned earlier, to be in the room with other athletes that have different experiences as they have, because they may think it doesn't pertain to them, or, I heard a lot of we just don't know what to do, like all of those kind of things where, that's not good enough. So we're going to learn, I'm going to help you learn what to do. And these are the things that you can do. So, that's where we've been with our team.
Thank you. Next round of questions here. First one is, what do you need from me? How important is that question to be asked, and how is it answered? I mean, what's the answer to that? Let's start with Coach Perry.
I think it's the most important question too. We talked about, I said, I love empathy as a word, but that question is the question. You can't force your views on your team. You have to make sure that you ask, them, hey, what do you need from me? Whether it be to dig up resources. On my search for resources, I found out, we're thinking, we had a coaches of color Zoom. We started having those within our athletic department. And then we're about to, our next meeting, we will combine with the staff of color. So coaches and staff in the athletic department. So we were thinking, we've got to create this and create that. And then we actually reached out to our student services and found out that there are so many resources that are already available on campus, but as the athletic department, we just didn't really even know about them. So, so sometimes all you need to do is be the connector. So we've connected, I've started getting the newsletters, and who knew there's a newsletter that comes from the Black Student Union, from, we have all these unions that meet the needs of, all types of students. So I started signing up for these newsletters, and I'll kind of cut things, from it and send it out, because apparently our players do get these newsletters, but they're so long that they maybe don't read them. But if it's something that we've talked about, that I've asked them, hey, what do you guys need? What do you guys want? I've gotten that information, and then I come across the newsletter and I can connect them with something that's already on campus, then I think it kind of helps. And I've gotten feedback from some of them that it's helped them. We're softball coaches. We have partial scholarships that we give out in athletic, in our athletic money. So there's some of these other programs give out scholarships. A lot of them are diversity-based scholarships that can be combined. So we've kind of been able to connect them into things that the university already does. Where first I thought, hey, I'm going to have to create this, I'm going to have to create that. Our student athletes also put together a march to the police station in town. This was a while back when we first kind of got back to campus, and just asking them, hey guys, do you want me to come to this? Do you guys want to just do this yourself? Do you want the coaches there? Those sorts of things. So I got great information because I wasn't sure. Am I supposed to come, or do they want me there? And it was, kind of great to find out, yeah, coach, we want you there. And later they said, hey, coach, we're so glad that you and coach so-and-so came, So, and then there were other coaches that maybe didn't come, and they were saying, I didn't want to, impose on my student athletes. And I was able to say, well, hey, did you ask them? Did you ask them if they wanted you there? Did you ask them what they, needed from you? And I think that's been helpful to those coaches as well.
Oh, mute button got me. Tori, you're next.
For me, just asking what they need from you. I think why questions are going to be the cheapest tool that they're going to sell at convention. Like, that is a simple why question. It's completely free, and we need to use more of it because it changes everything. Asking how you can be of service, asking these athletes how you could be better. I listened to What Drives Winning. I don't know how many of you guys have ever done that, but I've always listened to What Drives Winning because it's bigger than X's and O's, and that kind of reiterates it. And I 10 for 10 recommend everybody kind of join in on that when they do. And it didn't deal with race, but there was a basketball coach from Oklahoma who spoke about asking why questions. And this summer, it just kind of made full circle for me. There was so much going on, and you guys would not believe the number of athletes that were writing me on Twitter or Instagram who were waiting for their coaches to ask them a why question. Or waiting to have a conversation with the team. And it was really disheartening because I thought the NFCA, as well as so many other people, created platforms, right, where you could ask questions and then take it to your team. A lot of these minority athletes never got that conversation. But somebody had put this in the chat. It's bigger than just even the minority athletes, but that who was gravely affected. But there was other athletes that were kind of stuck in this position where their coach didn't mention it. So it allowed them to kind of not grow. There was a school in particular where a couple girls that were non-minority said they didn't feel comfortable with the conversation. And I was more mad and upset because that didn't create an environment for them to grow. That it's a privilege to say that you're uncomfortable and not have to go to a meeting. I have to go to a lot of meetings that I'm extremely uncomfortable with and show face and stand up, right? And do it. And we did a disservice to those athletes that didn't have to sit in on those conversations and listen to them and grow from them. You're never too old to grow. I try to learn something every day. But I think why questions can save a program. Why questions are the key to our growth, and it is free of charge, right? As much money as we spend on resources to get better on the field, we need to just spend a lot more time being comfortable asking a why and being okay with receiving what happens after that why, right? Like, or what, or how. And then taking initiative about it is the next thing. But this is just the surface layer. And we still failed at that in a large part in our softball community, just by the number of kids who waited by their phone to get that why question. I mentioned this in my breakout. Coach Ravel, when this broke out, immediately called me and asked how she did. How humbling, right? And we had a very honest conversation. A lot of people didn't take that initiative to ask a how, a what, a why, because they were uncomfortable. It is privilege to just say, I'm uncomfortable and not pick up the phone. So I think it is the key to all of this, and it is the key to having really positive conversations, and that's the key to action.
Thank you very much. Last coach on this question, Eric.
Thanks. And I hope people feel comfortable correcting me if what I'm saying here is not correct. But my feeling here would be that a lot of what's already been said, but to not tell my players what they need, to be open to not always having the answers. As a coach, I feel like I'm always supposed to have the answers. And I think what's most important is for me to just listen to the question. And then I really like to be a connector for resources and know if I can't answer the question, maybe, this is where you can find help, at the university. To me, I think that's what's most important.
Thank you very much. Next question, and we're going to compile these resources for you. So if you're constantly trying to save links and copy paste titles and all of that, don't worry. We will compile those and include it. The question I have, what are some resources, support, or responses can coaches have to make sure they're meeting the needs expected from minority student athletes? And then there's also a question in here of how can we make our program more appealing to minority student athletes, especially when we are a predominantly white institution? So similar questions, but whichever vein you want to take your answer. And let's start with Coach Barker.
So I think on the recruiting part of things, honestly, where are you looking? Where are you going? And it's okay to expand your recruiting reach. And I think that one of the coaches mentioned that earlier. It's okay to go to areas that you don't normally go to. I mean, there are these huge showcases and we absolutely love them. They're going to have all the talent in the world, but I don't think sometimes we realize how much talent is in the places that we don't always go. And there's some great athletes in those places. So I think that that's one of the big things. And having conversations with your athletes now to help with those recruits. What do you stand for? What does your program stand for? Obviously, it's about developing that culture. But when you're starting to develop that culture, your student athletes are your greatest asset. They're going to be the ones who are out there in the community talking about what you're doing in your program. So kind of to Tori's point, if your student athletes didn't have a great experience when everything was going on, then they're not going to be telling other recruits, hey, our coach stood up for what was right. Our coach had the uncomfortable conversation. So I think that it's all about what you're doing within your program as well, to become more appealing to others. And whether it's, I mean, we do games for everything, right? There's always some kind of event. Why not stand up for the things that maybe everybody's not for, right? I mean, if we can have an LGBTQ game, a pride game, which we did, then we certainly can have one that highlights our Black History Month or whatever it might be that we're looking for, so that we don't just put it in a box. I mean, let's stand up for everything and everybody and stand up for what's right, and make it a point so others know where your program stands.
Thank you very much. Nala, let's have you answer this one. Same topic.
So as coaches, we always talk about get comfortable being uncomfortable. But a lot of times we don't live what we preach. And like as was just said, go outside of your comfort zone. Go look in different places. You'll be surprised what you find in those places. You never know, by you going there, you might have just opened an opportunity for someone that they never would have had if you didn't make yourself a little uncomfortable and go there to watch a game or something. If you want to make and she's absolutely right, if you want to make your program more appealing, I know one thing I'm trying to do for mine is we're bringing more inner city kids to games. Hopefully we can have fans this year, because we would like to keep bringing them so that they can see what a collegiate game is like. They never get that opportunity. They never get the opportunity to interact with them. That's how, and your student athletes are your best recruiters, and they're the ones, those programs are there because of them. So we need to make sure they're the biggest advocates, and they're the ones out there that are going to be, they're the ones that those kids are going to see. So if they're out there and they're showing that it doesn't matter a person's background, but they interact with them the same as if they would each other, then that person's going to say, hey, you know what? There's a great culture within that program where everyone is the same. So why wouldn't I go there? So I think as coaches, we need to start doing what we always preach. You know, get comfortable being uncomfortable, and you know what? By not saying anything, that's the one thing you can't do. And I had a conversation with one of our coaches. I asked him, "Hey, what are you guys doing? You know, there's a lot going on in the world. Have you had the conversation?" And he said, "No." And I stopped him right there, because you have to say something, because these conversations are happening. So I think the biggest thing is, you know, with our student athletes is being uncomfortable, letting them be the ones who make your program appealing, period. So that's my thoughts on it.
Thank you very much. Monica, you're next.
I think two things. You have got to engage in the conversation early in the recruiting process. You have got to make your diversity inclusion strategy and how the, not even diversity, the environment of inclusive excellence that you have in your program, that has to be a part of your value proposition early in the conversation, or you're going to lose those student athletes, because other places are talking about it, and other places, you know, depending on how far along, you don't know how far along they are in the conversations with others. So you want to make sure that you're articulating that to your student athletes in the conversation, and don't go around the subject. Be very direct about it, and very direct about how you're supporting, and don't wait for the student athlete to ask the question of how you support it and why and when and what resources. You have to lead with it, because sometimes you may miss it because they don't ask, and you've got to listen when they're asking questions, especially parents, when they're sitting in your office asking questions about their resources at the university and how you're going to support their kid. You may go into your normal, I've been a coach for 20 years, I know how to sell my recruiting spiel, I know how to sell the university, and launch into this conversation and really miss the nuance of the question that they're asking you. They're asking you, how are you going to support their baby in a time of a major issue that they face? And you've got to be able to talk about that. I think the other thing is, as Noella said, make sure that we are comfortable being uncomfortable. As a Black woman coach, and this is my first head coaching experience and starting a brand new program from scratch, I was completely overwhelmed. And when I went out and recruited, I had travel ball organizations who wouldn't even talk to me. I went out with my assistant, who was white, and they would talk to her, close their back to me in the conversation, and wouldn't even address me. And she's like, that's the head coach. She makes the decisions, not me. And those type of interactions, I'm like, I was ready for them. I knew it was going to happen, but I, was like, all right, whatever. But that internally dictated how I then, for my whole first season, how I responded to adversity when it came to my team. When we failed in areas that we were supposed to be able to succeed, I didn't take it well, because I felt the pressure of, I got to prove all these people wrong. And then I had to go and be humble in the fall when we came back to say, hey guys, I screwed up that first year because these are the pressures that I faced. This is how I reacted to it. And then it went out on you guys. And I think, as we go about this of showing them that how we experience the world from a monocultural to an intercultural lens, it depends on how we have experienced the world and the world experiences us. And then that's in turn how we then go and react to others around us. So as we continue to let our student athletes in on this process for us and what we're experiencing as coaches, and the diversity around us, the more we're teaching them to be vulnerable, to make mistakes, to grow, and that you can recover from it. And now they're less afraid of that tough conversation. They're less afraid to go and engage because they know that they've seen other people around them go and do it. So continuing to teach them to push the boundaries and to go and talk. We can tell them all the time, yeah, go do it, hard conversations, but we got to show them how to do it sometimes.
Thank you very much. Next question in the chat, and this is a private message here, so I want to make sure that I read it so I get it right. This, oh, I just lost it. Hold on, give me a second. My assistant coach is a Black woman, and she feels uncomfortable discussing issues around race because she doesn't want to speak for all Black women. How do I, as the head coach, empower her without making her uncomfortable? Monique, you want to take that one?
I think that I can say that's a similar situation, that I'm in is, there's times I don't want to speak on something. There's times I do want to speak. And I think trust is huge. There's no quick fix for that. I think, if someone's comfortable sharing their experience, they should do that if that's what they choose. And if they're not comfortable doing that, a lot of times it's not just one situation. It could be a lifetime of reasons why they're not comfortable. And another piece of advice would not putting them in a situation where they have to speak. Like I know, there's times where I felt like when something happens, people are looking at me to speak to the whole team. I don't want to do that. And I shouldn't have to if I don't want to. But I think the first piece of advice would be, don't put someone in that position in the first place. And again, learn your assistants, what are the things they need to thrive as an assistant coach? Like have those conversations with them, ask them, learn their experiences. And I think there's no quick fix to creating the type of relationship where people are comfortable sharing their experiences.
Thank you. Brooke, anything to add to that one?
Yeah, kind of like what Monique said earlier. One is just making sure that for myself personally, like making sure you're in a space to where your mental capacity is healthy enough to take on these conversations. Then also just reiterating, like you shouldn't have to be the only person that speaks because not one person can speak for a whole. That just won't happen. But I have learned in my experience that sometimes even if I don't want to, it's still beneficial. If I do, it still reaches someone. And probably for me, because I don't speak that much at all. So people know if I do speak, it's probably, it took a lot to get me to want to do that. So it is going to be meaningful. But just again, main thing is for that coach not to put them in an uncomfortable situation. It has to be a safe space or they won't feel comfortable doing it.
Thank you very much. And Garland, maybe not the female assistant coach part, but the part about possibly feeling the responsibility, so to speak, of speaking for everyone. Anything to add on that?
Yeah, first of all, Monica, I just want to acknowledge what you said you went through on the field as a softball coach. I think it's important that, all of us here are either head coaches or assistant coaches, but we all have some probably pretty incredible stories that we can tell you about our time on the field or in this sport or out recruiting. I would say never put somebody in a position where they feel like they have to speak on everyone's behalf. I agree with Monica 100% where, nobody should feel like that's something that they have to do if they're not in a position to do so. I think that, when we get on these clinics and, we're trying to figure out the best way to build our programs. I think if we're not trying to incorporate some of the things that we're talking about right now into the culture of your program, then you're going to be fighting the same battle every single year. So for me, I think if I have, an assistant coach or someone that's put in that position, I think that first and foremost, I want to build relationships with my assistant coaches where we can have those conversations, and be heartfelt. And I would know whether or not they want to be in that situation before it ever comes up. And so I think that, being authentic and understanding the situations that people are in because you take the time to develop a relationship with someone will allow you to be able to navigate that situation a little bit better.
I just want to kind of add a solution base for this too. I think that for me, I didn't really speak about any of this until I felt it was time. No one pushed me into it, but what helped me is seeing women that look like me. And even women in general that just encourage me, women and men too, that encourage me. But most importantly, when I've seen someone that looked like me do it, it helps. So what I would suggest to that coach is representation matters. And as a head coach, it's our job to groom assistants as well. So she may need to just see someone that looks like her and speaks and lives their truth. Maybe that will help empower her as well.
Thank you very much. All great topics. This happens every time, but we run out of time. Every single time we try to do one of these, which is why we keep going, because the conversation is crucial and it's something that we believe, and I know you all believe as well, is that it needs to be continuous. So I apologize that we don't have the time to take to do more tonight, but we have opportunities that are still left in the next day to continue connecting with coaches. The mentoring session is an opportunity, and really trying to find ways to organically grow this conversation in ways to challenge coaches and do some things, and also simultaneously grow the moments that we create. And I love so much of that came from the chat of, this is what you can do. This is a simple question, a why question, the how question. I think just taking some ownership on those is huge. So thank you all very much. I always feel like I leave these so much smarter than when I got here. And I thank you for that and sharing your thoughts. A couple other things. We do have trivia tonight at 7 o'clock for your competitive folks that want to come play. You'll be in breakout rooms for that. So it's a great way to get to know more coaches as well. Make sure you sign up. You don't have to sign up. Take that back. Just make sure you show up. All right. Anybody can play. So make sure you show up. And then tomorrow we've got more live opportunities. We've got a defensive shifts chat. We've got a softball summit. We've got a drills chat. We've got a maritime panel. We've got a Hall of Fame panel. And we've got a mentoring session. So if you want to keep talking, tomorrow is your day. So show up for everything you can. Let's keep growing this great game together. Again, I can't thank you enough. Monica, Monique, Tori, Nala, Eric, Garland, Amber, Brooke, Tyra. It was wonderful. So thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your evening. And those resources, we'll have those up for you. And you'll get those in a email version as well. So thank you guys, everybody. Have a great night.